know when it's about 10 minutes. They had a clock here for me and I went unplugged. I guess we'll get started here. Welcome to Water Pumping Windmills Workshop. And my name's Bryce. I have a business called LoTec Windmill Service. I've been working on windmills, rebuilding, restoring, taking down, putting up, moving windmills for since 1981. So I've worked on a few of them. There's some handouts on that back table, which you're welcome to pick up if you didn't already get one. And I'm from Arkansas, Wisconsin, which is about 150 miles straight west of here. If you get on Highway 10 and drive for about 3 hours, that's where you wind up. We're over where, we're virtual Minnesotans. We're over where the Viking and Packer fans lead an uneasy, peaceful coexistence. I'm supposed to issue some disclaimers here. Everything I say is my point of view, not necessarily that of the Energy Fair. There are some, I'm also asked to tell you that there are some evaluation forums up here, and the Energy Fair loves it. If you quickly fill out one of those and stick it in this nice floral looking box up here, it enables them to decide who to invite back next year, and enables them to send me feedback telling me how to improve my presentation in the future. So that's appreciated. In my workshop here, I usually talk a bit about the history of water pumping windmills, and I talk about their design and operation, how they work, and I talk a little bit about how I work on them, how I service them, take them down, move them. And I'm just going to, those kind of three areas, I'm going to ask how many people are mostly interested in the history part of it. Okay, a couple people. How many are interested in how the design, operation, how they work part of it? And how many of you are interested in the how to do it part of it? All right, a little bit of everything. So let's get started. And I apologize for the AV here. The slides I've got are not going to show up real well in this tent because we can't dim the lights very much more. Of course, everybody is familiar with at least seeing pictures of Dutch-style windmills that were built in Europe for hundreds of years. And they're iconic machines that a lot of people are fond of. These windmills were, some of them were for grinding grain, some of them were for pumping water, like a lot of water, to drain fields that were below sea level. These were massive structures. I mean, this was bigger than a house. I mean, a person would go in this door here. So this thing was immense. And you know, this wasn't something that every farmer had their own windmill in general. A lot of times a village would have a windmill, and it would be one person's or a family's full-time job to run that windmill. You know, they'd be the millers, and they'd sometimes live in the windmill and grind grain for the village, or they'd be in charge of maintaining that windmill to pump out the fields that would flood otherwise. So this wasn't a product that you could go out and buy. It was a big deal to have a windmill. And when European people started settling this country, there were quite a few windmills of this type built on the East Coast, and you can still see some of them. But as European Americans started moving west into, and especially moving west into the more arid parts of the country, it was a way to get water was very critical to that westward movement. And settling the country in the kind of agriculture that people in those days were used to and wanted to bring west with them. So a lot of people were trying to figure out how to make windmills that could be made into a mass-produced product that you could sell to people and that would be relatively easy to put up and maintain. The first patent, U.S. patent for a water pumping windmill, a self-governing water pumping windmill, was issued in 1854 to a guy named Daniel O. Halliday. And he went on to found the U.S. Wind Engine Company, which eventually was headquartered in Batavia, Illinois. And they marketed a windmill. Early on, they started marketing a windmill called the Halliday Standard. And once again, I apologize, these are hard to see. But windmills, all of the early windmills in like the 1850s, 60s, 70s, nearly all of them were wheels with wooden wheels. They were open geared mills, meaning you could see gears against the sky, unless some of them were actually direct stroke windmills that weren't geared down at all. And there were a lot of different windmill manufacturers. Sort of a lot of different little mom and pop foundries and farm machine manufacturers got into the windmill business. So there were dozens, if not hundreds, of different little companies making windmills in the heyday of this industry. So like I said, all of these early windmills had wooden wheels on them. Typically they would be like lots of slats, like snow fencing, and there were a couple different styles. Some of them had a sectional wheels that would open and close to govern, and I'll talk about governing a little more in a little bit. Some of them had solid wood wheels, but one of the first companies to come out with sheet metal steel wheels was the Air Motor Company that was founded in 1888. And it's kind of an interesting story. There was a guy who was an engineer who worked for the U.S. Wind Engine Company named Thomas O. Perry, and he did a bunch of tests, built like a prototypical wind tunnel machine, and he did a bunch of tests of different wind wheel designs, and he came up with this design with curved sheet metal wheels that he had data to show was way more efficient than the big wooden wheel mills that they were building. And then so he took this presentation to the board of directors of the U.S. Wind Engine Company and said, "Oh, we should be making these. We'll take over the market. It's more efficient." And they said, "What? You spent company time doing this? That's an unproven technology. We've got something that works, and we're not going to invest in that, and you're fired." So he hooked up with a guy from Chicago, an industrialist named Laverne Noyes, Laverne Noyes went on to found the Air Motor Company. And this is also an interesting historical tidbit. Laverne Noyes was a farm implement manufacturer, but where he made his fortune was he designed and built a dictionary stand that was ornate cast iron with wooden, and then he got a contract to sell them to all the Carnegie libraries. So that was the fortune that enabled the Air Motor Company to be started in 1888, and they rapidly became the biggest player in the windmill market, and most windmills that you see now driving around the country are still air motor windmills.